Hello and welcome to Zwift Live. This is our weekly community racing feature, and I'm your host, Nathan Guerra. We're in the middle of the Zwift Racing League with race number 5. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at what we are up to today for the Zwift Racing League. It is on, obviously, today, December 10th, the points race with the Keith Hill after party. If you want some more information on the Zwift Racing League, you can head over to WTRL.racing/Zwift Racing League. That's what we're up to today. Next week, we are going to be looking at a scratch race for race number 6, 1 week from today, December 17th. And that's on actually a community selected course designed by the community. I'm going to really struggle with this name. Per Dringfa Fichan. Fetchin? I don't think I got that one right at all. They're really challenging me on that, but I definitely voted for that one. It's an interesting course, and it'll be exciting, so you can check that out. You can get involved as usual. Head on over to WTRL.racing, and you can find a team to jump in with. Can't register a team at this point, but be on the lookout for the round number 3 in order to register your teams. Well, joining me as usual, it is going to be Mr. Dave Toll. Dave, I'm excited for this one today. London, Keith Hill, a little bit of sprinting up front, and then we're going to be hitting a pretty difficult climb.
Yeah, this is a great course. To tell you the truth, I'm looking forward to how the teams want to play their cards tactically. Do we see a lot of action on the front end here and then a reset before we hit Keith Hill? We'll know a lot when we come back out of that subway, when we drop down and back up. Everything changes. Really racing in two different worlds out here. No doubt, a tale of two cities today. But yeah, it's going to be extremely fun. This is such a strong group of women, and at this level, this is where you really get to experience the best of racing, where the tactics matter. You come into a race like this where you really have to be on your toes.
Well, let's take a quick look at the course now. Keith Hill out of party. It's going to be 1 lap, 36.7 kilometers or 22.8 miles, 374 meters of climbing, or it's going to be 1,227 feet. Now, as you can see, it's very flat up front. We will have a couple of sprints points to go through up front, and then we are going to be making our way all the way around that classic London course a couple of times, as you can see, before we head back toward where we started by the pens, back under that Prudential Ride London banner, down into the subway station or the underground station, and then up that backside left-hand turn, not a right on, over toward Box Hill to that Keith Hill after party. It's kind of the shorter way up this climb. There's another way you can see on the other end over there of those Surrey Hills that takes a little longer to get up toward, but it just throws it right at you from the get-go, though, doesn't it, Dave?
Yeah, it really does. More than half of the climbing here happens in the last 5K of this race. So, it really feels like when you go back through the Prudential banner there, you're starting a second race in a lot of ways. That's for sure. This is our 5th of the season. So today we're in that points format, not a scratch race, although it's not as complex as some of the races that you might see that use the points racing, the FTS and FAL. They've restructured that this season. The teams are well used to those changes now, but FAL, much more important than FTS. And I think we see a lot more doubling up, Nathan, where riders aren't strictly poaching fastest through segment points anymore, where they used to, really just calibrate themselves before the FTS segment for exactly that, and then see where the chips might fall with the FAL. But now I would say, wouldn't you, Nathan? That's a good question. But the first across the line points, they go deeper, they stack up higher, and it seems like they really take precedence to me. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, a little bit of change up so that there isn't so much of the sagging. I think that's been a big change actually for this
anti-sag.
Specifically for this round. I think the change up in the Zwift Racing League so that it motivates the riders to go after the FAL a little bit more, to try to, because a bike race is about the front end of the pack a lot more, right? And if you make it about this kind of gaming the pack a little bit more for the whole entirety of the race, the whole pack of racers, you can kind of defeat the purpose a little bit. So I think the change was just enough where everybody can play a role, but at the same time, you still have that competitiveness at the front for those FALs.
Exactly. Nathan, exactly. I mean, you're talking about the spirit of racing here. And to me, the spirit of racing isn't going down a lap, recharging, and then contesting again for segment points. That's just not what we're here for, right? You hit the nail on the head when you talk about racing happens at the front of the group. And then, so enough said on that. I just feel like it's really been a great improvement for this season. Keeping honest people honest, as they say. But it's going to be, a watt bazooka required by the time we get to Keith Hill. No doubt about it. And, those points at the finish line, they're so valuable here. And today, another one of these great days in WTRL, ZRL racing, where it might be the 18th, 19th, and 20th riders that decide ultimately what team is on top of the table once it's done and dusted out here.
Well, speaking of making things great out here, we've got a great addition to the Zwift Racing League in the world of virtual cycling. I have a chance to talk to Kelsey van Skeurer out of South Africa. She's a newcomer in the last 6 months at this top level, coming on over from mountain biking professionally, as well as being a junior at some world competitions for South Africa. Let's go ahead and hear from her before we get out on course. Well, welcome to the program, Kelsey van Skeurer. Kelsey, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Nathan. It's great.
You're a mountain biker, Kelsey. How did you get from mountain biking into virtual cycling?
Well, originally I wanted to use virtual cycling as a platform to actually increase my 1 to 5 minute power because I was really struggling with that outdoors. So then I got into virtual cycling, saw that there was the World Championships, and I was like, hey, I want to try qualify for this and see if it's possible. And then, I ended up qualifying, and I've fallen in love with virtual cycling since, and I actually want to focus more on it.
Can we back up a little bit and talk a little bit about how you got into mountain biking? What's your journey into cycling? What sparked your interest in the sport?
So I started cycling at 12, 13, just mountain biking with my dad, just around local trails and stuff. And then I actually made the move to road cycling and some track cycling. I went to Junior Worlds 2 years in a row for road. And then due to just the politics in South Africa for road cycling, I actually transitioned back into mountain biking and started getting into all the stage racing. And then, now moving into virtual. So I've done pretty much most of the disciplines. Cycling in this country is definitely growing, especially on the mountain bike front, as well as the gravel. The country's currently going to put in some UCI gravel races, stage races even. The mountain biking is just absolutely amazing. We've got a few races here with UCI points for the mountain bike, which is just really great because we get to it's very hard on the road to get those UCI points because we don't have any UCI races, whereas on the mountain bike we do. And you can actually try collect those points to try qualify for world championships.
You want to speak a little bit about how a platform from your view, that's virtual versus the outdoor, has expanded your horizons in cycling?
Yeah, the virtual space and the racing, it's really, really great because you sort of don't need big budget sponsors to do it. You can race at the highest level for relatively low cost. You just need a trainer and a bike. And that definitely opens doors for me because I don't have the same, if I was based in Europe, it would be a lot easier for me to go join a road team or try and make a pro there. But coming from South Africa, it's almost impossible without sponsors. Whereas the virtual stuff, I'm able to just hop on my bike from home and race at the highest level. I've actually used Zwift as a training platform back in 2018, 2019 to prep for Junior Worlds, but I never did any races and I just used it for intervals and it definitely really worked for me. So I knew about the platform and I trained on it, but to be honest, I actually hated training indoors, with a passion. I would go outdoors rather, ride in the rain, ride in the wind. And then, I don't know, with just doing some of the new races this year, it just changed my mindset and I absolutely love it now. In July, end of July, I started getting serious and discovered that there's actually racing. Because there was actually this huge misconception, especially in South Africa, with virtual racing and it not being regarded as real racing. Because, I don't know, all the riders, you look, oh, virtual racing, oh, it's not real racing, it's not hard. But then I gave it a shot. I'm my power numbers and my training stress score online is way higher than any outdoor event I've done. And I'm this racing is proper racing, real racing.
How does that transition to you finding Cryo RDT and being involved in one of the best teams that's in the Zwift Racing League?
I really love being a part of Cryo RDT. Like, it's a really great, positive environment, and us being like second on the leaderboard is a really great feeling because it's my first like sort of Zwift Racing League series that I've done. And yeah, already to be like up there it's pretty great. I knew one of the South African riders on the team, so we were chatting a little bit, and then actually at the World Championships I met Tiffany and Maria, and I was like, we're chatting, we're like having lunch, and then yeah, the Alan asked them about me, and then all like, oh well, we're all having lunch together. And yeah, I just kind of got along with everyone, and it's been great. I didn't realize virtual cycling can be way more social than outdoor events. Like, it's crazy to me because all the riders are just so friendly, especially like when you're racing and you have Discord on the side and everybody's like talking tactics. They're on like Discord and chatting, and then like you end a race and then people are like messaging on Instagram like, hey, well done for this, are you racing this one? Like, it's just nice. You don't get that from like outdoor cycling as much where I'm from.
Keith Hill After Party, it's a sharp, punchy climb. Do you like those kind of climbs, or do you like something that's a little bit more of an FTP mountain climb? What's your forte when it comes to that?
I'm still trying to figure out which sort of climbs I like on the virtual side of things, because outdoor racing, I love the longer stuff, but I'm leaning towards the shorter 2-minute, 3-minute climbs virtually on Zwift. Yeah, I'm still learning. I don't know really yet what suits me, what doesn't suit me.
Well, we're going to hear a lot more about what's suiting her because it's going to be coming straight at her today with the Keith Hill After Party. But great to hear from Kelsey out there. And as you can see there, Cryo RDT and the second spot, Dave.
Yeah, love that team. Good to see her energy. And I really agree. We should touch on that about how virtual cycling, Nathan, in my opinion, really is much more social for some interesting reasons. That's for sure. So, all right. Aeonian, the queens of virtual racing, are showing you what they do, but they have been challenged. It's going to be an interesting day to see if Toyota Cryo RDT can get some help and move up and make it even closer heading into the final race, because it's 4 points, maybe, Nathan, a little closer than some folks thought it might be. Other folks, who knows? But this is where it stands. So 63 points for Aeonian, Cryo RDT, the team of Kelsey, at 59. It's a 6-point gap down to this very experienced Swedish Swifters team. Let's watch them make hay while it's in the field out here today in London. BL13, the Thundercats, they have been really strong all season long, sitting in fourth at 49 points, and this is where that battle for the top 5 with Coalition, the Level Wasps, and Saris, all relatively close there. So battle royale expected. Coalition 46, 43 for Level Wasps, Saris at 41, and then just 1 point back. To be honest, Beast Mode is right there. Beast Mode presented by Rose Women at 40 points. Then we've got Phoenix at 32, Team Castelli for 28 points right now. Watt Fabric Star Watts at 23, so they're going to be in a battle with Electric Spirit Co. Then you got Roca Corba there, who they'll be back next season, I would think, with reinforcements. But right now, we're going to have the women out on course. We're really going to have an interesting route. Greater London Flat into Classique, and then on to Keith Hill. But this is definitely London. We know it. We love it, Nathan. And there's Kate McCarthy running up on the front, taking the start today.
Yeah, Roca Corber might be at the bottom of the points right now.
That helps.
It definitely showed up with the current reigning world champion in virtual cycling. So I think there's going to be a little bit of extra power on the course here today, coming in from Kate McCarthy. Good to see her. She's having obviously a really good year. Jumping in with Kelsey now at this point, putting out a pretty solid 4.7 to sit in and amongst. This is interesting. Some power-ups being thrown down. I think that little punch up into Trafalgar Square and then onto this classic section has put a couple of riders into a little bit of trouble to try and hang on.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it being flat, but racers make the race, and they're doing exactly that. But looks like they're going to regroup just a little bit here. Now, Nathan, I do notice that Aeonian today with Romanian Daniela Estrate definitely unlocked the legend code for esports racing. big part of the Aeonian team, and for a long time, Nathan, she really dates back to me to be an OG Aeonian racer, certainly when they made their first big moves racing up at the highest end. Joe Blackburn is here, Lanny Harper is here, Megan Kelly, Morgan Chafin, and Polona Itkin. So that's a squad of danger women, but no Los Tarajes today, Nathan.
Little bit of a rise now. They're going to be taking on, it looks like BL13 going to take over at the front in the pink and white kit, as it's going to be Morrison, I believe. Yeah, it is going to be Kat Morrison, in real life, retired professional triathlete, setting a steady tempo as Coalition comes up alongside them. It's going to be Ward there from Riot, followed up by Beast Mode. On the right-hand side, it looks like Joanne Reitzma as well, right there, and Ed Nevin also making the way to the front, just securing, making sure that they're nowhere necessarily at the back to follow anything perhaps that might attack up and over this little bit of a punch. They're going to go underneath the bridge here in just a moment, a little bit of climb into the back ends of this classic section of the Greater London course. But I think things are going to probably stay pretty chill, as it's a points race out here today that they're looking forward toward that first sprint.
Yeah, I think once we hit that sector, Nathan, that first sprint, everything will change immediately after. But until that point, we're going to be on lockdown for sure. A lot of points going to be available there. Wasn't Kat a great interview last week?
We are back in here. Apologies on a little bit of a hiccup there for just a moment. Now the attacks are starting to get going here at this point at the front end of the group. Who is making the moves? It looks like that's going to be Kasani here from Cryo RDT on the attack, as Cryo RDT trying to get an early move out, it looks like, to see if they can establish something, as it is going to be Ursula Kasani. Now, 4.7 watts per kilogram here coming from her. Kate McCarthy here on the front there, Dave. 4.5, maybe just trying to keep this within striking distance.
Boy, and everybody back in that peloton is more than happy to let her. That is for sure. I love that Toyota Cryo, just Cryo RDT these days, that this team is going to upset the apple cart a little bit here in London. Nathan, this is how, if you want to beat the Aeonians, this is how you do it. You got to zig when they zag. You got to make moves like this. So I love the fact that the ladies in blue here are going to have at it.
Yeah, good for them to make another move here now with Cryo RDT. I think, taking your chances like this is a good idea sometimes, to try and force some of the other teams to put in a little bit of work, soften up their legs. If you're not super strong when it comes to the sprint, this is a good way to use up some energy perhaps of that pack. If you're thinking, look, I don't got the climb, I might not have the sprint, but what I can do is make those other teams work.
Exactly. And, Nathan, we've had a lot of discussions over the last few years about if you're going to make a move in a race, have intention. You don't just hit out for no reason. That's the difference between a professional and amateur racer, to tell you the truth. In amateur racing, you see riders making huge moves or taking monster pulls, and you have to wonder why. Why did you just do that? Here, it makes sense. What this woman is doing is impacting the race and forcing other teams, as you just said, to go ahead and use some resources here. And that's exactly what's happening. I think she's going to come back into the group here now. But a little bit of a statement, I think. Some positive morale should ripple through that Cryo RDT team.
Kasani now being pulled back in. Looks like as the wattage comes down, realizing not going to be able to stay away in order to grab those FAL points. That could have been a shot, though, for FAL points, right? If they just let her go, Dave.
Sure. I mean,
there's a reality she could grab them.
Exactly. That's what we're talking about. They had to react, right? Little bit of Tai Chi out here. If they don't respond to her, well, all of a sudden they watch that go up the road. So, Nathan, I don't feel like we focused on flags or nations anywhere near as much as we did back in the day. I guess we had a lot of time on our hands during COVID, didn't we? But do you recognize the flag there? It's not one we see a ton, but it's certainly one.
I think we've gone over this before.
I'm not cheating. I know because I looked it up because I had to double check. So
I am going to go. I'm cheating now. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
blame you. Lithuania, right?
There you
Which,
go.
yeah, yeah. So made famous by one of the great American cyclists of history, Bill Walton, when he supported them with the Grateful Dead in their basketball team back in that was sort of a fun story of the Olympics yesteryear. The Lithuanian team receiving support to be able to be on somewhat level playing field with the other nations out there. But back to the action here, Nathan. Things are going to, I would expect, relatively status quo out here.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty
Now,
calm, I think. I mean, well, you could see another rider give it another go, but I really get a sense that because of the reality of the back end of this course, even the sprints, we're not
yeah,
going to see a lot of goes for those FALs, mainly because Keith Hill is such a difficult climb. It is just a full gas VO2 effort, everything you got. Hang on, and then a 1 to 30, 1 minute, maybe 30 seconds, a sprint of attrition. You're not going to have a real kick to the top of that climb.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Nathan, I don't think I know. We have watched these fields get smarter, the savvy racing, understanding that nowadays a small mistake is going to be punished much greater than they used to be, right? Used to be able to come back, and we used to see riders really go big, and now they recognize sort of the limits of what you can do with a field with this much depth. And yeah, it's respect for your competitors at the end of the day. That's what we're seeing right now is, this is locked down on the front, because why would anybody want to expose themselves with tremendous risk, almost zero gain? It's all going to kick off at the bottom of Keith Hill. By the way, Nathan, I just was hearing recently, do you realize that Keith Hill, so there's that fun play on words, I assume, with the Box Hill and Fox Hill, right, depending on which way you approach the same climb, and then Leith and Keith. But Keith Hill, did you know that Keith Hill is an actual icon of the London cycling community?
No,
That's
well,
where
I mean, I've seen early on in the Zwifting scene, this whole crew from this area, especially when PRL was going on and Box Hill was like getting the KOM on Box Hill, or what the times were up there, was kind of a big deal. There was a lot of hype around that event and this area with cycling, it felt like, because it got put in Zwift. So because that connection to the real world created this awareness then that I just got by like osmosis, by being around these people essentially. So I knew that only because of that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is pre Alpe de Zwift. So that climb was featured a lot, right? I mean, if you wanted to have a hill climbing world championships on Zwift, Box Hill was certainly the place. Huge part of the Olympics in 2012 back over in London. Back to the action. It's Jennifer Ward now, Nathan, a Saris rider, who's taken her turn on the front, pushing the pace. You could see an attentive Aeonian is going to keep a rider up there without too much worry. It's Morgan Chafin right there for the Aeonian team. Riding
Nice
on the front, but
covered by Electric Spirit, it looked like, keeping things within check, making sure that doesn't go anywhere. I want to do a quick little rider comparison actually here. This is going to be your top level, 13.8 watts per kilogram coming in from Sabby Horner. Sabrina here, she's riding for that level team versus the 4.7. Now, Kate McCarthy's got a better kick than that, though. That's just what we have on I don't think that's going to be even close, actually, from what we got. I was looking at I think it's been a little while since she's raced on Zwift, I think is what's going on there. So most likely a lot better kick than that. But we can look at Daniela Estrate here. And as you can see, Estrate, much more of an FTP type climber. Sabby Horner here, watch out for her. I think she's flying a little bit under the radar, though, when it comes to some of her recent results. Maybe Level here have an up-and-coming rider that's going to give us a little bit of a show today, because these are some serious numbers.
I'd expect to see her scoring mega points, actually, at that first sprint segment out here. Good catch on Sabrina Horner there. That's the level team we're talking about. If you asked me, Nathan, if someone said, give it to me right down the middle, a prototypical elite-level esport athlete, I would say, go ahead and just look up Daniela Estrate. That'd be a good example of that. Those numbers right there.
Yeah, 100%. That is somebody who can mix it up with just about anybody. And Daniela Estrate, I think if I could predict where she would be in the pack, it's going to be right here. I mean, all I had to do was I didn't even have to look, Dave. I just had to find
give me a chance to guess.
I mean, there she is, right where she knows to be, keeping things steady with the watts and making sure she's reserving as much energy as she possibly can. Look at Aeonian. They're all over the back there.
Yeah, well, lesson learned, right? These ladies have as much experience in esports racing as any crew in history out here. And when it matters, they'll be there. There's no question about that. Although they haven't exactly, would you call it dominate the season? I mean, they've been the
closer than it has
team,
been in the past, for sure.
Right.
It's definitely been a lot closer. Priority T have really given them a little bit of a run for their money, and there's been a challenge from BL13 there as well. They've definitely been a part of this conversation with BL13. I think SZ have given them a serious run at times too, but they've come out on top though. Team Castelli also here and there. They definitely, remember we saw Castelli off the front in New York over and over again. There's been these attempts to put a chink in that armor to find what is that weakness out there.
Yeah, and all credit to that. The teams that have been, trying to find that crack in the armor. And that's been really the spirit of the racing that we've seen all season long as we take a look at a peloton racing in the rain right now.
London.
It never rains in London. That's weird, isn't it? That
London, I think this is... no, I don't know. I thought that was what happens in London. Are you messing with me? Is this? I don't know if this is this satire. I don't know what's happening now.
Sarcasm is tough to hear on
it is for me.
Esports
it
broadcast.
It is for me. Right? That's for sure.
I've never been in London, Nathan. I know you. I mean, I've been in London. I've never been there without it raining the entire time, and I probably have a good. Yeah.
It was the opposite for me. It was totally
nice.
Yeah,
weekend.
for some reason I had no rain every time I was in London. So. Well,
these
it's about to rain. Watts is what's about to happen if we want to relate that to the broadcast, because we're about to make our turn onto the first sprint section. I think this first one is scored. They do head through this a couple times, so I got to double check on that, but I believe this first one is scored.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game out here, is if you're just joining us for the first time, which I'm going to say we've probably really saturated with our audience, but, it's a team sport. These teams have 6 riders. This is a 6-race season, bracketed into a 3-season group. This is the second, so they're more than halfway through those 3 seasons, 5th of 6 races here that'll be scored in this batch right now. We've already had our 2 team time trials. This is going to be our second.
I don't know. Maybe this
races.
One isn't scored, Dave. Apologies. Like, I'm looking through on this, and I had to double check it on the race schedule.
It's a limited amount of points today, Nathan.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. It says the mall forward sprint 1 times and the mall forward sprint 1 times for both FAL and FTS. So I have a feeling we might see them just. They might just roll this one, and we'll have to wait a little bit till they come back through again.
Well, good time for me to mention that the Zwiftcast is back with Rebecca Charlton, Nathan. So I hope people have a chance to go listen. We had Eric Min and Matt Stevens along with Eric Schlange on as guests. So super, super proud. I hope people have a chance to enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm looking here over on Zwift Insider right now, actually. Zwiftcast episode 206, a new cast and interviews with Eric Min, Matt Stevens. Pretty awesome to hear and see. It looks like a great kickoff for 206.
Yeah, we're obviously, we talk a lot about it in the episode, and so much respect and love for Simon. And we have Rebecca now. So if she's been, you've done work with Rebecca going back many, many years. So
yeah, the first time was our first in real life tax event. It was a tax event actually in London. To speak of being in London.
There you go.
And it was one of our first live events at a bike shop. I believe it was a bike shop in London. We set up an esports. It was a championship series. It was pretty cool, actually.
It's probably, 2018?
Something. It might have even been 17, actually, because we had the European tax series, and then we had the Saris or Cyclops. I think it might have been still at that time American series for a final as well. That was... the early days of first getting going with the esports.
Who's going to pick up this sprint? Let's just talk FAL for a moment here, Nathan, as we really have two finishes in this event. There's going to be certain riders, I would think, that are going to be all about trying to gobble up as many points early and then let their teammates take over.
Now, are they going to sprint? Now, this is confusing to me because there are people sprinting for this, but on the website, I'm not seeing that this is a contested sprint. So,
either way, the race is on.
They're
right?
on. They're going for it. Here we
It-
go. Coalition at the front. Nat Lawrence going all in for it. It's going to be Harper now. Going to be able to take it at level. Is it going to be level? It looks like no. Who's on the front here? That's going to
Savvy.
be Horner. Horner
Yep.
takes it down. We talked about her having 13 watts per kilogram, and she shows up with it.
Well, you put her into our rider comparison, and she certainly delivered. She dials that in. So write down that name, Sabrina Horner, talent for the future. I mean, she dimmed the power grid in London right there. They're going to reset. So is there going to be a counterattack? It doesn't look like it. Boy, the diesel engines like Kat Morrison, though, got to be thinking about it. You see the BL13 rider moving her way up to the front. That just tremendously experienced triathlete there in the pink and white. But it doesn't look to me, although maybe Cryo going to do something here, Nathan. That window's closing quickly, though. Group strung out, but I do think we hit the reset button here.
I wouldn't be surprised if Cryo did try to make some sort of a move there. SZ to the front. It looks like Morgan
felt
Schaefer
like
now
it.
from Aeonian. Now, the big question for me is, like, Aeonian didn't challenge that at all. So now I'm wondering, like,
They
we're
might
gonna
know
wait.
more
We're
than
gonna
the
wait.
rest.
We're gonna wait and
Yeah.
see what's going on here because I'm waiting for the points to load. And if no points load at all, then we might have a situation where it's like, well, did we not check the race book? Like, what's happening here? Because I would be really surprised if Aeonian didn't try and challenge that.
That absolutely. And boy, Nathan, in my experience of being in real life races, the first people I look to when something like that happens is the riders themselves. They're the ones that are the most informed. It matters the most to when you talk about event safety, who's going to care more about safety than the riders whose safety would be in jeopardy, right? And who's going to know more about this stuff than the experienced women on Aeonian? Not many folks that I can point to. So, and there's just no way that they let that slip by and said, let's not contest at the sprint.
Speaking of a counter here we go. It's going to be Ward. We talked about her a little bit earlier on. It looked like she wanted to try and make something happen. And now it is going to be Ward now making the move. Jennifer Ward, Morgan Chafin here trying to make the cover. Aeonian are on it. They might be able to get another rider here up front. The rain has calmed down. You can see that no longer having too much water coming up from the wheels. As I love to see how that works here. As Chafin, can she come across? Is there a chase there? It's going to be Joanne Reitzma as well at 5.3 watts per kilogram. The group is now responding as two go off the front.
All right. Well, and this really changes everything out here now. We've talked about Cryo making big moves. Kate McCarthy, the regulator out of New Zealand, looks like she might have to shut this down. Or, Nathan, does she not let this become her problem out here? Real wild card. When you look at the points battle, her team has not had the season that they were looking for. She's here to win this race outright by herself, I would think, is the mindset for Kate McCarthy.
Yeah, and Kate, I think because she's such a good climber, is going to wait for that Keith Hill. Really, I think that's her forte. She doesn't want anything to get too out of control. But look at where Kate is sitting.
She could spot riders 30 seconds, Nathan, and still have no problem, I would think. Look at McCarthy.
Just kind of like, making sure she's on the front, adminning the front, making sure she knows exactly where she needs to be in order to cover anything that goes. But she's calm and cool at this point, I think, as Jennifer continues to press off the front here.
And no reason for her to let this be her problem, but she's strong enough that certainly, and it looks like maybe Kate McCarthy's going to put on a Festivus, a display of strength for us out here, Nathan, because it looks like she might be entering the launch code.
4.1. Well, for her, a launch code is kind of like, for everybody else, it feels like a launch code, and she's just on the front setting her tempo. So there's
this
a
is
reality.
zone 2 workout for. McCarthy is a super athlete. There's no doubt as she's emerged into this scene of the elite here and currently the reigning world champion. There's Cryo now moving up.
Yeah, Cryo really making sure they're at the front a lot here. Here's Kelsey. She was covering things a little bit there over and over again. Look at the setup that Kelsey brought. You know, it's great to see. It looks like she's upped her in-game knowledge a little bit. As you can see, the wheel setup that she's shown up with. I think she chose a lightweight bike out here today, and she's definitely a good climber. I mean, she's coming in at super lightweight with some good power. She can throw down a 5 watt per kilogram, maybe 6 up to the top of that climb here. Watch out for Kelsey when we hit the back end of this course.
Yeah, look at that. I'm just looking at her numbers for the first time ever, Nathan. And you're right. That is the proverbial cocktail napkin with an outboard motor strapped to it. When you talk about how light she is with that kind of power, holy cow. So, yeah, you know, I love that interview with her. Again today, as I was mentioning, they've just all been great. But her comments really astute, I thought, on how virtual racing is much more social. And it makes sense to me, Nathan, because you have this really, you know, when you look at the stimuli, well, when you're at home on your trainer, you definitely have access to all of the social media and all the amazing ways that we can communicate, and you have the time to do it. When you're at a bike race, a lot of times you don't even have cell coverage, let alone, you know, you're rolling around on your bike. You can only really talk to one person at a time in person. I go to races all the time where you don't even see people that you knew were there. You get 500 people at an event, and it can be really, really hard, right? But so why this community has been so supportive, and that definitely is the backbone and strength of racing online, is when the community shines is when it's supporting each other, obviously not vice versa. Something always to remember, that's for sure. But you know, this group of women are heavily connected and extremely supportive. There's the numbers there. Thank you again, Nathan. I love this rider comparison. So we're going to take a look at Gokse Paul and Kelsey van der Schoor, the German and the South African here. Pretty even, aren't they?
Look at that kick that she has. She can climb real well, but if she can put down 11.7 on the back end, because the watts are similar, but she's such a light rider. And also she has that mountain bike background. So she's got the mountain bikers always have a little bit of an extra kick, even though they're at threshold. And the reason we have that is because we have to constantly attack out a single track, or they get over a rock, or it's just trained into you through that natural, the terrain that we have to take on while we're at threshold or while we're at VO2. We kind of have that snap still in there to get through the terrain. So I have a feeling if she can climb to the top with the best of them here, she might have the snap left to get it to the line there.
Those are the kind of numbers for Kelsey that tell you this is the kind of woman that if she's will be the best sprinter left in really, really elite climbing groups. Those numbers are deceiving as well. You have to remember that Kelsey weighs 43, 44 kilos, right? And that explains why you see that, you know, exceptional number there, 11.7 watts per kilo for her sprint. And then still in that elite group at over 4.5 watts per kilo there for 20-minute power. Although Paul, 5 watts per kilo. That's a super athlete. She's going to be part of the
5'8" for 3. I mean, you know, there is just a raw wattage reality as well, though. Even though it depends on how sharp the climbing gets, too, doesn't it? It really,
exactly.
If there's a draft still, there's a lot of different ways that this can play depending on at what points the riders make the riding hard. Kate McCarthy still at the front. Gokse Paul's there. You can see making her way to the front still as well.
Yeah, this feels like, the highest level of racing. This is, there's 18,000 folks, over 18,000 folks that race in the ZRL. WTRL just crushes it. It's the most popular racing league on the planet. And here we take a look at a group that happens to be exceptionally talented when you look at the number of world-class racers. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Kimberly Hoekstra today, another one of the cryo riders to watch out for here. As Cryo's really squaring up for what's going to be a great battle, not only with Aeonian, but, let's see what BL13 brings today. Beast mode. It'll be interesting to see what, Maria Marr. Nathan, haven't mentioned her yet. She's a rider that certainly will be exceptional when push comes to shove. out here. But Kate McCarthy, the woman to beat, no doubt about it. Two different storylines there, though. The individual race win, and then what team? Because this is all about team points today.
Well, it looks to me like this has actually been scored. So I was incorrect. I wasn't
Surprising.
sure. I wasn't sure.
Right.
Like on the website, it does say one-time malt forward sprint. And so I'm wondering if that is the situation here. Are we going the other direction then?
I thought it was as we went under the Prudential banner as we were heading back to the subway, heading out over to where Matt Stevens lives.
On the mall. So the red section,
okay.
yeah, it's on this red section for sure. It is definitely on the red section. It's just I didn't recognize that was the forward there. So perhaps that's the forward, and that's what's going on. It says 1 times here. I always assumed that the other direction was the forward, but I must have got that one wrong, and that's completely on me. Apologies as a commentator, I should know that, but apologies everybody on not knowing that. Unless we have 2 times through. I think it's because usually the way we go on the classic, when you do classic London, we go. That's the way we go. Is the other direction than what we just saw. So that's interesting.
Yeah, today Greater London Flat leading into classic route, right? And that setting it up a little differently. So, all right, all in all, Nathan, it'd be nice to see those points, but it really
they're there. You got them.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. And I was going to say that the impact, I mean, it's going to come down to who's got the legs or not by the time we make our way onto Leith Hill. But so Aeonian not going for it, but not giving up much either out there. It is Cryo RDT with 39 points, just 1 point ahead of BL13 Thundercats. Was that Aeonian just kind of playing a safety there then, Nathan?
Yeah, I think they challenged, it looks like. They still got some good points on it, but I think that what they are playing a little bit safe in order to make sure that they can stack that. Oh, look at this. Marmota here. Team Castelli. Here we go. This is the moves that are going to start being made. Get a head start on it. Make sure you've got some time before you hit that climb.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I don't know that they're going to respond with the intensity that they might for some other riders. This really might work for Fabia here. So Fabia Matamotti on the attack. Mamma mia, here she goes. All right, so she's going to throw some coal on the fire here, Nathan, sitting up near 6 watts per kilo. Shows you, though, I mean, case in point here. Watch the effort it takes to get 6.5 seconds, right? That was a virtual explosion from the Italian here. And it's right at 6.5 seconds, it looks like riders like Retzma, Griffin, they're all going to start leading this chase, not giving her much leash.
Yeah, it looks like, let's go ahead and look behind here. I mean, 6 seconds in the amount of time she got, though, in this short of a distance. I mean, this is something. You can't just wink at this, I don't think. And looking at the front end of the pack, are they doing anything? Reitzma is at the front, making a little bit of an effort. They are bringing some time back. This downhill is going to be a struggle to hold on to this a little bit, I think, at this point. Nevin now makes her way to the front. Coalition, now one of the riders here, 323 watts, just trying to ramp it up to make sure nothing gets too out of control.
I mean, the other element is your teammates can try to play off this a little bit. And, you know, like Roberto Busone, Nathan, gets to sit in here. But I think the reality is the strong women will prevail one way or another out here.
Busone is definitely a rider who wants something like this to really challenge the rest of the riders. I mean, really your only choice when you got so much talent in this group is to put the stronger riders in a position that they have to chase, right? You have to make them waste some energy because otherwise you just can't take them on when you hit that climb.
Yeah, you do what you can with what you have. Unfortunately, there's so much depth here with so many teams that it wasn't like Aeonian had to put a couple ladies on the front to chase that back. It's just the momentum that Peloton helps reset things out here. Ladies came to climb.
Well, Cryo at the top right now. They're definitely doing what they need to. This is a little bit of a threat, I think. I mean, you can't just wink at this and think, oh, Aeonian's just going to win this out. They are reserving a lot of energy, but Cryo, they have shown up obviously, and they've got the numbers, they've got the names, and they might be able to pull this off today. I do not count them out for the win.
Look where they're sitting in the peloton. I mean, you couldn't ask for better positioning from the squad right now. So tip of the cap to the DS. The team morale looks sky high.
A little bit of a climb here. This is a section.
Ionian just doesn't care. Look at it. You could say like, oh my gosh, the entire team is in trouble here. They're all at the back, Nathan. And you know how that's exactly wrong.
Yeah, they're just fine. There's nothing going on here that they're all that worried about, honestly.
If you wanted to bring in a poor commentator who had no experience with esports racing, right? That would be something that you might think. You might say, wow, that whole team's at the back right now. Don't they know about positioning? It's like, well, just wait a few minutes here, and you're going to be in for the surprise of your life.
Is that Ward again? Is she continuing to do the... Yep, Jennifer Ward again. Throwing the aggro
like
down.
Her chutzpah.
Over and over again.
Yeah, that's a spirited race. That's the kind of race you want on your team, Nathan. Looking at the Riot woman from Canada, giving her full stick right now. Like an airplane pilot, Nathan. Just taking...
This is getting responses. I'm a little surprised at how much of a response this is getting from the pack, though. They do not want Ward to get an inch here. They are like, nope, not giving you anything. And Reitzma has been the rider that continues to bring these back.
I mean, look at what they're doing as far as power goes in a peloton that, they're already going pretty hard, and we haven't even hit the climb yet, Nathan.
Full gas here.
They're not easing into it.
No, not at all. And now around the corner here, Coalition on the counterattack. Who's on the front there for Coalition? Now Coalition trying to counter. That's going to be Ann Nevin with a little bit of a gap. Is Nevin actually giving it the beans here? It looks like, no, that was just bringing it back, testing the waters. This isn't a serious attack, it looks like. We're not over 5 watts per kilogram.
And I think that's the threshold I'd be looking, maybe even over 6 at this point. And there you go, right on cue, Nathan. But, I mean, if you're hovering in that mid-5s, all you're going to be doing is just holding this group off at a second and a half. That's not going to have the significant impact, but it certainly shows that you're here to race. You're putting your nose up into the wind. Although this is where I start just kind of thinking, and I think Ann does too, I want to make sure that I have every watt available when I need it. I don't want to burn off fuel for no reason. And Nevin back to the peloton, wise move.
Yeah, nicely done there to bring things back, to calm it right on down. And not waste too much energy. Look at Ionian again. Kelly on every one of them. They are all doing the Estrata. They're all keeping this.
Well, and Nathan, if you think about it, how much trust in the process do you have here? Because they've let all the other teams do a little more work than they have at this point. This is that proverbial Tom Sawyer getting everybody else to help paint the fence while he sits there and compliments them. And, more or less, Aeonian they're sitting third on points right now after we saw that 1 point scoring opportunity. But they were basically it was a top 3 teams were more or less deadlocked. I think it was only 4 points separating them. So that's close enough. And here's an attack. Here we go. Is it going to be Blanc?
That's a serious move, too. Up and out of the saddle. Look at how fast that rider left that pack. I mean, that was...
Bottini.
Yeah.
Nathan, this is going to be fun to watch. I mean, that's the jump. The Swiss rider here showing us if you want to do it all in. You can't half commit to an attack. And you could see that she just exploded. And let's see if she can sustain it's the follow through. You've talked so much about that in the sport, but that gap is nice enough. Let's see if she can use that as a platform to take it up in over 10 seconds, and then we're cooking with gas. Problem is, Kate McCarthy's responding.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Kate's not usually Kate. This is where I feel like Kate's like toying with the pack, because when I see Kate make a move, she's such an experienced esport rider that she'll make the jump and not just pull the pack around. So I think she essentially just went to the front shortly to say, come on, everybody, I'm here. And everyone responds to her quickly, and that brings the whole pack with. That was almost like next level, like 4D chess.
Wow.
Like, well, I didn't actually attack to bring anyone with me. I just went to the front and knew it would get a response, and bam, everyone goes.
It's funny, Nathan, 4D chess or 0D chess.
Yeah, right? Just set a tempo at the front. I'm getting a workout. I'm just playing with it.
100%. 100%. Like, I'm so strong that I'll do what a teammate would do for me right now for myself. And how do you like them apples, ladies? I'm literally chasing back small attacks for you other teams. Aeonian their nose hasn't touched the wind, but Aeonian also, Nathan, really could. So do you look at this today as a bike race where you're doing everything you can to not only get the most points, but win the race outright? Or do you let the Kate McCarthy ship sail when she attacks and say, look, Hiroka Korba team is at the bottom of the standings. She's one of the strongest riders in esports history. Why do we blow up everything chasing her when we can win this race with the depth of our team? But pride, Nathan, comes into play. It's just undeniable to me. That's one of the most beautiful things about esports is that, yeah, you're part of a team, but also you're here to put your best effort down. And at the end of the day, the best place to do that is on a climb, to tell you the truth, not waiting for a sprint and positioning. But you know as well as anyone, Nathan, that a climb is a pure throwdown. And at a certain point, you either have it or you don't. It's not about tactics or anything else. It's about you producing your very, very best effort.
100%. Yeah, and that's going to be what it comes down to is what is the best effort these riders can throw down. Talking about their riders here now the riders at this point and what they're reserving or what they're not reserving. This is going to be the current leaders on course right now as far as, not for the series, Aeonian's currently, but CryoDT, they're right on their heels, and they currently got the point lead out here right now. As we take a look at Joe Munden is the rider we have highlighted at this point. But look at the wattage that they're throwing down. Nobody is over 200 watts, Dave. Everyone is thinking about exactly what you were just saying. What is that climb that's coming up, and what kind of energy am I going to throw down? Because it's going to be a personal best for a lot of them, I would think.
And the reality seems to be settling in because we saw them sitting about on average 1 watt per kilo higher just a few kilometers ago. Now things, I say, settling down, sitting here over 3 watts per kilo throughout this peloton. Some a brave Aeonian. Actually, it's a technique that in real life you see, but you don't see it with entire teams. But Aeonian certainly knows what they're doing. Let's see, can Cryo pull off a big win here today and move closer? For Cryo to tie things up, they're going to need, I think it's 3 other teams to beat Aeonian. That ask is just too big. Maybe another team or 2 getting you even closer heading into the final race next week. But, just taking back 1 point on Aeonian would be massive for the Cryo squad out here as we come into the finale of this season. Here we go. We are locked and loaded. This is not a drill. Big time bike racing back here on Tuesdays. Nathan, this is going to be fun. I'm at the edge of my seat right now. Looking forward to Keith Hill here in the finale.
Let's get an idea of how this is being played by the main team. We don't have the 6th rider. She's here. We just don't have her in the rider list right now to bring her up. That's going to be Joe Blackmore. I believe Joe's here. I hope that she made it. Maybe that's why she's not showing up. Was there a dropout or something? I'll see if I can find Joe in the peloton. But we definitely have these 5 riders, and you can see, again, another team exactly where they're sitting. Some of them under 100 watts, Dave.
Chill City.
Yeah, super chill before we hit this climb. But we're about to go over the bridge. Here we go, and into the underground in just a moment. And that's where everyone's going to start fighting for position, perhaps. I don't think you're going to see the riders who know how to really roll through this underground and not get too worried about it. They're actually going to get even more rest through that section. They're going to allow that roll through speed to just kind of keep them where they need to be. But the second that we get out of that underground and out into the railroad and the right-hand turn onto the Surrey Hills, I think that's where the fight for position is really going to start to begin.
It hasn't exactly been an easy ride to this point. The virtual heavy roads of London leading to this point, but this is it. It's going to kick off right here, right now, as we're going to drop down into the subway. Enter phase 2 of this Dante's Inferno of pain that we've got going on here, Nathan. And I have a feeling that this is it. I'm going to take some cues off of Kate McCarthy here. Little bit, once we come back up and out of the subway, this thing's going to explode.
Yeah, and then it's just to be full gas. 5 minutes or so is what we're talking about to Keith Hill. Underneath here, look at the back here. See, this is what I'm talking about. Look at Estrate. Look at where even that, she trusted the speed, the draft, and used nothing to get back into. She is so good at this Zwift craft.
Watch as the peloton changes shape, how she changes her effort, Nathan, because right now she's only sitting half a second off of the front of the spike race. If it were to string out single file, she's 4 or 5 seconds back from where it matters. So the second that she feels that switch being flipped, you're going to see Daniela Strate make her moves. I mean, that's a really good rider to cue off of here. And I have a feeling that they're going to start moving up right now.
Yeah, and here we go. As we look at the leaderboard quickly, just
there
as a refresh now, it's Cryo RDT at the top at 39, BL 13, Thundercats 38, then it's Aeonian, and now Van Shore. Van Shore makes her way to the front.
It's very fun getting to meet Kelsey in your in-game interview today. There's the Toyota Cryo rider. There's McCarthy. Heavy hitters. You're being called to the front right now. Heavy hitters to the front. Loading group 1. It's on. And how about Kristen White? Love seeing her emergence out here. K-Dub has the American, another triathlete, Nathan. And we're going to go deep into the pain cave. Nobody's going to even have a flashlight. They're going to be banging around out here. So there's Larson, the Swede. Nelly, always a dynamic rider here.
One thing I definitely want to highlight is this early shuffling of where you're going to sit in the pack. It can tell you two things. It can tell you who's, being attentive, and it can also tell you who's getting out in front of their shoes a little bit too, right? Like I have been in a situation where all right, I'm going to attack this climb and go after it. And then next thing I know, I'm like, wow, I bit off way more than I can chew. And so we're going to figure out who's actually going to be who amongst this pack. The sorting's about to happen. Electric Spirit Co., they're going to be the first ones to really make a serious move that's got any kind of a gap. This will be getting a response. Blanco here makes her way to the front.
And this is where it matters as well. It looks like Kate there in the red jersey. I don't know if you have to respond to what Kate's doing or not. The racing's going to tell us a lot. Klein is up there. And Paul.
Oh, it's FTS, Dave. It's FTS. That's why. Did you see they went over the marker? And the moment they hit the FTS, Kate McCarthy goes full gas.
Well, this should be it now. In the red jersey will be McCarthy. Who can respond to that? So Paul is one of the riders that's showing she's on her A game out here. How about Megan Highland today? And Morgan Chafin now. It's stringing out. It just got real. Nathan, this is going to be exceptional. The racing that we've got. The world champion on the front, throwing body blows now at a field. I mean, just hanging on in the top 10. These are some of the big names out here. Julia Klein is still there. I mentioned Hoekstra will be a difference maker, and she absolutely is, setting up near the front of this chase group. Nathan, everything has changed out here for our women. We are racing to the QOM banner, remembering that as we are inside the danger zone now, and McCarthy has hit out with authority.
Up into the 10% the moment it went into that red, now 9%. The feather power up was popped. I think she's been holding on that from the moment that she got it under one of those banners here. Very smart move from her. Already 4 seconds. I don't think anyone can respond to the level of the world champion at this point. Megan Highland's trying to make it happen. Hoekstra's there as well as Goxie Paul, but I think this is going to end up being a chase group rather than anything being brought back at this point as your current reigning world champion is walking away.
I feel like 7% grade is just enough where the really good climbers can do maybe not quite maximum damage, but they got a lot of leverage to work with. How about this ride from Megan out here today? That's going to be Megan Highland, the Saris rider that we're looking at.
Yeah, this is an impressive ride actually here coming from Highland now.
Best ride I think we've ever seen from her, Nathan.
So
to tell you the
solid.
Truth.
Can she hold this to the top is going to be the big question. Now, a little bit of a downhill here, going to get into a flat, and then we're going to kick up again for the second half of this hill. And this speed section is an important section to really gain on the rest of the pack, for they might sit up a tad to try and get a little bit of a reprieve as they are led out, it looks like, by Cap Morrison. setting the tempo at that front of the chase group.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a downhill as you go through that sector as the climbing resumes, and it doesn't stop for the rest of the way to the finish line. Now, as we look at Kate McCarthy, our leader, Megan Highland should be chuffed with the ride that she's having. Exceptional. It's every woman for herself. All hands on deck. As you can see, a very elite group is forming behind McCarthy right now, Nathan. And that behind McCarthy, I mean, only 12 seconds. I say only when you look at the talent that is the New Zealander.
Yeah, McCarthy here is going to just continue on at her steady 6, and that's going to just, I think, open up as what we've seen from her time and time again in recent months here. So Kate McCarthy here, I think this, well, I mean, you can't say it's over till it's over, Dave, but the prediction, when the over-under starts to be out there, I have a feeling you don't want to bet against her.
And if you're looking at this as a 6-race, season-long team battle, this is inconsequential, I hate to say. That feels like a real bumper.
Really good point, though.
Yeah, she's one woman. There's just nowhere even close to enough points that changes what Aeonian's thinking, or Cryo for that matter. Nathan, I just have to ask, because I've been wondering since I started Zwifting in 2016. Well, these were also in Watopia. What are these glowing green orbs? Are they supposed to be fireflies?
I think they're fireflies. Yeah, I think that they are
I've
fireflies.
Always wondered. Honestly, I was embarrassed to ask because I feel like this is something you should have asked a long time ago. But
I like them.
All right.
I like the fireflies.
I do too. I just never knew what they were. And they're also on Watopia, you see, something similar.
I have a question here. Is Kelsey's job to mark Morgan? Is that what's going on here? And then what's going up ahead? About. Look ahead. Look at what's happening with Hoekstra. Hoekstra is getting the better of Morgan here at this point. Chafin, Leonie Harper too as well. So Hoekstra here might be pulling it off now for Aeonian. As we talk about the series overall, this is playing out right in front of our eyes right now.
I don't think this is the hardest climb in the world. I know it's not, Nathan, but I think it's exactly as hard as it needs to be for a bike racer to do what they do. This is them in their element. And I would honestly think, Nathan, not making light of your question at all, but really do your best. Put together the best result you can on this climb. Not so much I need you marking the X rider or Y rider, but just get the best placing as you can, because that's what's left at this point.
Yeah, really, look at this, Dave. Heisel, okay? Now, the play out in front of us right now, we've got Heisel, right? And we've got, it looks like, who's right behind there? Is that going to be Reitzma and Heisel on the chase? Daniela Strate just in front of them. They've got to bring back these two Aeonian riders, or this might not be a one that they can win here at this point, because it looks like Aeonian might be stacking the upper end of this race now at this point.
Which, I mean, that's what Aeonian does. This is no surprise at all. I love that Cryo's in for the fight. They're about halfway through this brutal climbing sector here. Nathan, this ship has sailed. Kate McCarthy rolling it up. With some riders, you might think, does she have enough in the tank? With Kate McCarthy, that question has been answered definitively over the last few months as the New Zealander just wailing away on the front. But yeah, Nathan, really that story is exactly what you're talking about. And I would say if this was a tennis match, you'd give the advantage Aeonian.
Yeah, it looks like Aeonian might be able to pull this one off. Now, Kate McCarthy on the front here. It looks like she's going to take this one down. She's got 1.4 Ks to go. It's a long climb, isn't it, Dave? I mean,
it just seems so long.
And the efforts that they're throwing down, the heart rates that we're seeing here as we get, I mean, Kate beats pretty low, but look at this from Goxie Paul up in a 188.
Remember how we used to joke, Nathan, in the early years about this is not an exercise competition, and there were a lot of funny sayings that we had. But this is truly where you just have to be comfortable being uncomfortable for a while out here if you want to get a result today. It does feel like an endless tunnel of pain.
Yeah, and my suggestion, I was chatting a little bit with a couple of athletes I was coaching, and what is the tactic here? Hang on at the bottom. Nobody's really going anywhere. Pacing, and it's this back end 1 minute, 60 seconds or so. That's really where this race can blow apart completely. You stay with the pack that you can, You hang on, you sit in the wheels with it that you can. You set your you don't want to just sit in if you got the better wattage. If you have the better wattage, you go. But there's also reality that if you go too far over, you're going to go backwards real quickly. It's really about setting that maximum power and then setting a new power best by kicking to the line the last 30 seconds to a minute.
And the riders who've got their pacing right can really exploit that, the weakness of riders who didn't in that final 500 meters. That's where you really see the huge swings in time. Kelsey Paul's got to be stoked on her ride today. That's the woman that she's chasing, Kate McCarthy, up on the front, then Paul, then Larson. Shout out Nelly Larson here, the Swedish rider, sitting on mid-fives. And at this point now, she's starting to try to lock down the bronze medal on the day. It's about 10 seconds up to Paul from third, which is Nelly Larson. Again, this is Kate McCarthy on the front.
Opened up almost 21-second gap. Kelsey Paul's having an amazing ride. To be within 21 seconds now of McCarthy is that's a pretty solid ride there coming in from Paul.
Yeah, sorry there, Nathan. What was her 20-minute power? Do we see a personal best from her?
I think it was like a 5.3-ish or something like that.
Yeah,
I'll have to double check on that, but I think, it's pretty solid.
I thought it was 5.3, which you just said. So that gives me encouragement that if we agree, we're rarely both wrong, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know if that's true or not, actually. But I think we both agree that Kate McCarthy's a machine.
Yeah, there it is. Definitely making hay right now as she comes to the line out in the Surrey Hills. There is the Zwift Racing League banner, and Kate McCarthy's doing what she does as of recently, and that's win races out here today on the Tron bike, representing that Corba cycling. Good to see them out there grabbing some points. Haven't been super involved as of recently, but today she's showing that they're still here for the Zwift Racing League.
I think I used the term reinforcements for this team. When she can get a few folks to join her on this squad, they will be potent. No doubt about it. Congratulations, Kate McCarthy, taking the outright win here today. And Roca Corba, we always loved Ashley Muhlman-Pasio, still do, the impact she's had. But this might go down as the ride of the day. Nathan Kelsey Paul coming across the line here for a solid second place and the points that go along with it.
That's a massive result, actually, for Goxie.
Really
happy to see it.
I call it leveling up. Leveling up, Nathan.
Absolutely. Now we're going to start seeing some battles behind here. Nelly Larson able to get the distance. She's not going to have to worry too much. Solid 5.4 to the line here, up into 166 between her. She can relax, like in the setup that she chose, super lightweight. Now the question is, where is Aeonian? Where's Cryo RDT? Here comes Hoekstra. Who's behind Hoekstra?
This is Cryo.
Oh, Dave, Here we go. Oh, this is okay. Hoekstra to the line, but can Kelsey make it happen? We talked about the kick. Is she going to hold on to the line? It's the lead out there. Kelsey tries to hold it on, but no, she is going to beat the Onion rider, but she needed those extra points. Is it going to be enough, Dave?
Boy, well, the most important thing was that she finished in front of the Aeonian riders, which it looked like she accomplished. Yeah, she wishes she could have got a little bit of a bonus on top of that. That was huge for Kelsey. All heart from the South African out
Look at
there.
this, though, Dave. Chafin,
this is the problem.
Harper,
now
Estrade, one after another.
Done and dusted, Nathan. That's the strength of Aeonian, is that, other teams challenge with their first and second riders, but nobody stacks up the wattage like the Aeonian does. That's the method to the domination, is that, what did they put, Nathan? 5 in the top 11?
Something like that. Yeah, something crazy like that. That was just domination, really.
Wow.
And here now across the line, going to be Reitzma. Just outside, I think, of the top 15 as we're going to get some results in here. And as we do, we'll start heading on over to our men's race in just a moment here. But there it is, Kate McCarthy at the top.
And, it's more like what they did in the top 16, to tell you the truth, Nathan, when we talk about Aeonian, as I do think they'll be the top team. But let's break it down from what Nathan has right here. Kate McCarthy, you are legend. It's Kate McCarthy, 59.29, the winning time out here. You can see that was 25 seconds. It could have been worse. Kelsey Paul had a ride of a lifetime today. The German up there in second. Nelly Larson, Swedish Swifters in third. Kimberly Hoekstra, very impressive job from Kimberly today. Kat Morrison, Nice to see Kat having a top 5 performance for the Scott. It's Kelsey Van de Shore. Kelsey, thanks for your time. Enjoyed the interview and a great ride to back it up in 6 today for the young South African. Another cornerstone of German esports is Maria Marb. Taking 7th today, Joe Bruvis, Aeonian rider. That's where we start looking for Aeonian now, Nathan, and Joe in for 8th. Camilla Alberg, Swedish Swifters in 9th. They had the day. And then Jenna Baril in 10th here for BL13. Getting a couple riders up there in the top 10.
So far, this is what we have so far for the finish line. So we don't have all the points. I did want to at least highlight where some of the things we're at for the updates, but I think that so many people are visiting the WTRL website at the moment that we're just going to have to hold off and wait for anything more to come on through. Dave, we're going to head on over to the men's racing in just a moment. But let's go ahead and hear back from actually Kelsey. She had such a great ride today. Let's hear more about her and her introduction to the world of esports before we jump on in with the men's race app, Keith Hill. What would you say are your standouts when it comes to mountain biking, track cycling, and road racing?
Definitely finishing 9th in the Absa Cape Epic this year was a highlight for me. It was my first Cape Epic, and my goal was just to finish it, so finishing 9th was great. I'll be doing that again next year. There's another race called Cape Pioneer Trek. I did that now. It was like 2 months ago, and I finished 2nd in the UCI Ladies Cat. That was pretty great. I've done Attakwas. I don't know if you know what Attakwas is, but I've done Attakwas 3 times now, and I've finished twice in 5th place. That's coming up now in Jan. These races definitely do have a lot of internationals that come down to do it, especially because it's in the European winter. So it's like summer here now, good weather. So a lot of the pros do come down here and just train in like Stellenbosch, Cape Town for the good weather, and then pitch up to these events and do them. The racing is pretty long, like Attakwas is 130 Ks, but it takes the ladies roughly 7 hours to complete. And then like every like say Cape Epic stage is like 6 to 7 hours as well. Good base miles, very different to virtual cycling, being only like an hour racing online, which was quite different for me.
Do you enjoy the transition to the high intensity, and is it something you look forward to now?
Yeah, I love the high intensity. I actually did a race last week, just a like little club mountain bike race, just to see how the virtual cycling has helped my outdoor events, and I was able to actually sustain the same power almost I can do virtually for just 2.5 hours, which was pretty impressive because I haven't been able to do that in the past.
What has it been like being thrown into the midst of so many different race formats? And I mean, from my perspective, there's a lot of technique to virtual racing that maybe some people don't know about. And being very new to the scene, but also being an extremely experienced professional athlete, you kind of have the best of both worlds where you have a vantage point of how complicated in real life cycling can be and how much technique it takes. But then jumping into the virtual world, are you seeing this big learning curve? There's
definitely like a crossover between tactics from like road racing to virtual cycling. Like it's very similar, but the game side of racing on Zwift, I still have a lot to learn. I'm still getting used to like drafting and like the TTTs. I struggled a lot with that. I think in the second race of this round of the series, we got like an anvil as one of the power-ups. I'm like, oh, what does this do? I had no idea what that did. I don't even know what all the power-ups do yet. So it's been quite fun to learn all the different like game side of how Zwift works, and it's been really fun.
Did you expect the kind of numbers and quality? Because I mean, when I first got involved, the quality wasn't this high, but it's just gotten, I mean, deeper. And I mean, now at this point, it's World Tour type numbers at the top. And was it kind of eye-opening, or to find that kind of level?
It's definitely an eye-opener. I didn't expect the racing to be this hard and this well supported. I didn't think Zwift racing was that good until I started doing it, and I'm like, wow. I've actually started talking to some of my like in real life teammates. I'm like, hey, you should come do some Zwift racing. Like it's really great training, really great racing, and you get to like push your numbers to the max in a safe environment from home.
So not even 6 months ago, you weren't involved in this space. And now you're talking to your friends, word of mouth, who are also top racers, most likely, or at least, top domestic level, if not better. And they hadn't necessarily taken this stuff seriously. And you're going, wait a second, like, this is actually nothing like what we had thought it had been. And after seeing all this and people like you coming in and then spreading it amongst your crowd, do you see a future in esports that it's going to grow rapidly because of that?
I'm hoping it's definitely going to grow rapidly, at least in South Africa, because I've been chatting to all my road teammates, telling them, look, you guys should try get into ZRL next year, start doing some races, because all of them are already using the platform for training purposes and doing intervals on it, but none of them are actually racing on the platform. So I'm like, you guys need to get into the racing. It's really good. It's not what you think. It's better than some of our outdoor events, actually.
We've had a lot of people who've been on the program that have years of experience in Zwift, and we've asked them if there's one thing that you could change, what would it be? But you're fresh eyes to the platform. Is there anything with those fresh eyes to the platform that right away stuck out there, like, I wish I had this?
Honestly, just the knowledge on how the platform works and which bike I should be riding when, because I didn't even know that the bikes make such a big difference. The first TTT, I'm like, they're on a road bike, like, guys, should I be on a TT bike? And which TT bike should I buy? Just learning which bikes and wheel sets to use.
Well, Kelsey Van Score, thank you so much for joining us on Zwift Live for the Zwift Racing League.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. It's been fantastic chatting to you and giving you a bit of my insights.
Absolutely awesome to hear more from Kelsey. She had a great race out there today, but we're right back down into the men's racing. The first sprint, Dave, we get from one section of action right into another one here this is playing out completely different than what we saw in the women's race. We've got Watt off the front here. And for the BZR team, we'll take a look at the current standings in just a moment. We can't miss this sprint or this essential breakaway for the top FAL points. Pettinger trying to make a response, it looks like here, unable to do so, as it's going to be Fabian Devola looking to grab this for Deepak. Zedson unable to grab it. This is a challenge to take down the current series leaders.
What is going on? Is what I feel like.
Well, here, I'm going to actually, I do have a little bit of a replay of how this played out. We almost
have to.
Okay,
let's just go ahead quickly. Yeah, so the guys have just gone through the first scoring opportunity. This race has absolutely blown to bits. This is diametrically opposed, and this is how racing works, Nathan. Case in point, racers make the race. So help me understand who blew this race to bits, although it does look like it is regrouping. So that must have been a big, big play for points out here. Much different than what we saw with the women, but it might be settling back down, or is it? But let me throw it back to you, Nathan. How did we get here?
Yeah, this was a serious move that was made just a little bit earlier here, as we can try and take a look. And it looks like the move here was made by...
it's got to be BZR.
BZR,
right?
Yeah. Watt here was just really on it. This was his move early on. It was actually going to be, sorry about that, it looks like it was Deepak Elite that was trying to respond to it, but Watt just continued on and was completely committed to this. That's what was going on here with this BZR team. And there it is, up and over the top. BZR makes the move. There was a response there to Devola, as well as who else was with Devola there from
Ruben Dot?
Was it maybe perhaps? But Watt here just takes over about halfway through this, still about a K to go, I think, and just goes up and over the top and says, forget it, I'm going to take this down.
And it worked, more or less, as these four end up taking the points. Is, really, just tactically astute. They saw, and then, that's going to be the moment that these points were decided. FAL points, massive out here, really getting off to a great start. So we haven't even looked at the guys.
Really big move here for BZR. And let's take a quick, actually, it's a good point.
And not a surprise, right? They've been so good Maybe not when you compare what Aeonian has been throughout the run of with Zwift being 10 years old right now. Aeonian for more than half of that time actually probably just under half of that time, Aeonian has been the dominant women's team in the sports. But for the men, it's much more wide open. As you can see, Zed Sunderpants, the team in white, red, and black, they've got the same advantage that Aeonian had, but there's more teams within striking distance here. 59 points there for no pins, so they sit 4 points back. Deepak, the team that we saw really in the mix today, looks like they're going to be absolutely contending to try to move up into second spot. As that might be the most that you could really hope for on one day out here. Race 5 of 6 in the season. Mutant in at 4th here with Deepak again, 56 points, 52 for Mutant. Outboard, and I'd say they've been the revelation of the year, 46 points sitting in the top 5. Wahoo Esports, always keep your eye on them. In 6th with BZR, that's going to be the team looking to make some moves today. In 7th, Art Quarks. In 8th, Sisu, 9th, Sunrise, 10th, and Velociraptors. That's our top 11 teams as it stands here in the EMEA. That's Europe, Middle East, and Africa. The West, the Southern, the A1.
They just don't stop. They just don't stop, Dave. It's just nonstop. Let's go to another replay because we just saw this just a moment ago. We had another move being made by Deepak Elite. I believe it was another one of their riders was making this. It was going to be Liben here with Deepak. Watt, also with Mertens there off the front, it looks like, with the BZR team trying to make something happen. They were brought back into the fold, but a very different race here in the men's race as we have nonstop attacks trying to get away.
It almost feels like a little bit of legal collusion going on between the non-Zed Sunderpants teams as well, but it isn't Zed Sunderpants chasing things back per se. A little bit of a reprieve right now as we see them spreading out across the road. If you're just joining us for the men's race, you missed an absolute Donnybrook in the women's race. It's all about after party on Keith Hill out here today. Tale of two cities, with it being, it's not, you can't just call it pancake flat. It's not Tempest Fugit out here, as the London sector takes the wear and tear on the legs is relatively high, I would say. In the first, most of the climbing in this race happens in the last 4K. Nathan, this is really the softening up that you see out here. Sisu on the front right now.
Yeah, looking at the team points here, though, where's Zed Sunderpants, Dave? They're currently sitting in 5th place, and I don't think that this is their kind of a race, unless they're saving up for the back. Now, look, I'm not positive about that. I haven't seen them come to a climb of this type yet, right? This is a very different type of climb we've got out here today than we've seen. I mean, we've seen it when it comes to the New York climb, but that's about a minute and a half or so, right? Where this is a much longer VO2 effort, and I'm just wondering, can they pull off something that we've seen so far this season or not?
It's interesting because also they do have a 4-point lead on second. It's also interesting that none of the men's teams, except for maybe Swedish Swifters, try to do. Actually, they are Swedish Swifters. It looks like that's the outboard team there I would call that a royal blue and yellow. So they're channeling their Aeonian vibe out here, chilling at the back of this group, knowing that it's going to explode after you come out of the subway out there. But that's an interesting point, Nathan. Aeonian doesn't need to win the day to stay in the lead either. Are they sag climbing this day of racing in the season?
You mean Zedsun? Zedsun don't have to win the day?
Zedsun, excuse me.
That's okay. Yeah. Same position.
4-point lead.
Yeah, 4-point lead. It's across the men's and the women.
Although,
it's the same, kind of the same tail, but I think there's a little bit more danger here from some of these teams here. I don't know that Zedsun can necessarily sit back at this point at all.
So, in Aeonian's case, they knew that if they didn't win the day, it would only be a team or two that might beat them. I think worst case scenario, Zed Sunderpants has more jeopardy than that. They could lose to 3 or 4 teams today and all of a sudden find themselves tied for first.
Look at the back of this pack, Dave. I mean, there's a lot of tactics being played out right in front of our eyes, even now. I mean, look at all the
now it's like the
hanging
women's
out.
race in a lot of ways.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of the guys are like, look, we're not going to let this happen and just start making moves. I mean, the way that this has been playing so far, someone's going to get sick of this and go, okay, that's enough is enough. And now Zedson, they make the way to the front. You don't get a little gap like that without anything being thrown down. There's a little bit of a move happening here.
Well, you're at least lifting the pace, aren't you? And that's exactly what we're seeing. And then teams starting to respond. And this is the snowball effect, as it starts to build.
Well, and Danelle does not want to come to the bottom of Keith Hill with a single rider. He wants to have a huge gap. This is a rider who's got a really solid sprint. And they might think, look, we'll bring him back later. He can't climb with the top climbers, but he can sprint. So I wonder if he just wants to get away.
And how much leash do they give him? What's going to be the pace that they set? And this is a really good example of what it takes to make a 10-second advantage. How hard you have to wail away on the front. So sitting at 5.5 watts per kilo, so that's not exceptional from Alex Danelle. That's just a big effort. Peloton's going to sit at about 4 or so. Gap goes out to 5 seconds. Does he take it over 10? I think he does.
Yeah, I think they're going to watch him. I get the feel. Well, Fabian Devola just went to the front, though. Deepak Elite are covering for some reason. And they're just having Fabian do the work, interesting enough. But he's a good climber, so I'm a little surprised that they're just putting Fabian on the front here. It's sacrificing a little bit of energy here from Fabian.
I'm a little surprised as well, Nathan. I definitely all of a sudden, as soon as I said, does it go to 10? Yes, I realized, well, how quickly things can change out here, because that Peloton a little more motivated now, and I think that's going to be, when you see it sitting at 7 seconds, but advantage is going to go to the Peloton, I would think here. I think Danelle might have to throw in the flag, and we're going to start updating this pretty quickly here. This is a man who's been leading here. Team's been great. It's been really good seeing the outboard team rising up to the occasion this season, and this is the way they've raced.
He's been a little confused on the committal. I see him go to 5, and then he sees that they back off, and I can see that he's like, are they coming or not? Come on, make a decision here, guys.
But then when you see them touching up on 7 watts per kilo, you realize that, yes, they are, and I think that's going to be the moment. I mean, Alex is really just dangling off the front, isn't he? This really would define that.
Oh, Pettinger, though. No, this is a real move. This is Pettinger's real move. Real move, though. This because he's got a gap on the pack. And I'm not, maybe he just bringing it back. I thought he was going to go.
Why? Yeah.
I thought he was going to go.
And you know what? He's got a book of matches, Nathan, that's large enough. There's no reason to worry there. And actually, that might even be a good sign that he's champing at the bit right now. But that was interesting because I'm 100% with you. I thought that was going to be an attack up and over the top, but not the case. If we take a look at Richard Wilson moving up to the front now, the Sisu rider. Here comes Stephen Kenny. The Irishman, Steve Shipman up there as well. A little bit of reshuffling on the front. I feel like an antsy Peloton right now, Nathan.
They really are. This is definitely people covering, killing moves here, left, right, and center. They're really making sure nothing is comfortable off the front here at this point. They don't want anything to get away. At the same time, they're trying to keep the powder as dry as possible. They don't want too many sweat beads coming down here still because they got that Keith Hill. The sprint is done and over with. And Zedson are middle of the pack as it comes to the points here at this point. Deepak have done their job. They've done a good job to put themselves in contention for the day.
Shout out to SRT as well. Hunter Thompson, Fear and Loathing in London for Hunter Thompson in this case, for the SRT rider. But I do see you've got Alex, who was just attacking earlier, the Swede, and then Belgian Ruben Dant. Here, Nathan, our side-by-side comparison. I'm looking a lot more down at the 20-minute power than on the other end of that spectrum out here, where these two, you see Ruben Don at 5.5 watts per kilo, or maybe 5-minute power should really be factored in here as well. Ruben Don should be on it looks like a not tailor-made, but certainly a top 5 kind of day at the worst for the mighty Ruben.
Yeah, that 5-minute power is going to be really crucial here at 6.7 watts per kilogram. I mean, look at that's over 1.3. So
yeah, that's a difference.
And Alex is a really well-known sprinter amongst this crew. He's really well known for his kick. And so, that's the main reason I wanted to make this comparison is that Donnell, where he shines is at the front end of the point structure here. But we get into the back end of this. Watch out for Dont and BZR. The funny thing is that BZR grabbed some good points early on as well, though. So it'd be interesting to see if, this is where I think this course kind of throws a wrench a little bit into what we've seen so far in this specific division as well. I have a feeling that things might shake up a little more today.
Well, I agree, Nathan. I think that it's that delta for the other teams that are not Zed Sunderpants here. Like BZR, I believe, is in 5th place coming into this 5th race of the season. They could win on the day out here, and that just means that for the team in white, red, and black that you see here covering right now, that's Steve Taff. But they, even though with a 4-point lead, it's the depth of this group that makes the jeopardy greater. They're not just trying to hold off one team out here.
Yeah, it's a lot of cover and kill here from Zed Sunderpants. They're playing defensive. They're doing
done
what
a good
they should,
job,
right? If you're
right.
You can compare it to a yellow jersey team, right? Like your job is to control the race if you want to hold on to that lead, and that's what they're doing.
You keep yourself in with the shot, the best shot that you can, and they haven't used an excessive amount of resources to keep things together out here. This race has been relatively in check. It's going to kick off. There's no question. And then either have it or you don't, really. For the most part, team tactics, they don't get tossed out the window. But, Nathan, truly, it's going to be your legs that do the talking at that point. Peloton, Grupo Compacto, Mafatarik up on the front. Another one of the legends of this group. Just like we talked about with the women, these are some of the strongest, deepest fields that we see in WTRL.
There are a couple of riders I would like to highlight here. Matt Wood versus Morgan. I believe it's going to be Ed Morgan. This is a situation because these are the two teams that are really battling it out so far today that I've been watching. This battle at the 6.6 and the 6.3 between each other at that 5-minute. That's what because this is Zed Sunderpants with Wood, and this is Deepak Elite on the other side of things here. And I get a sense that this is kind of the one that's going to be one of the deciding factors. There'll be a lot of them to the line, but this is one of those matchups that's going to be a deciding factor, I think, up over the top of Keith Hill today.
100% agree, Nathan. No doubt about it. Although this is one of 4 or 5 different storylines that you're going to be watching out there in that finale as well.
Yeah, so, Deepak Elite versus Zed Sun. Anything, like what else is happening out there?
Well, I was going to say it's so much in play right now. And this is truly going to be, if you want to make some moves in this league and go from 5th into the top 3 or actually challenge Zed Sunderpants for the outright win, this is your opportunity. Your biggest gains or losses. And Nathan, how many times have we talked about in order to win, you have to risk losing, right? And I think these guys are going to have to go hard enough on Keith Hill after party that, if you do blow up and go a little too hard, a little too long, all of a sudden things dramatically change.
Axel Kinberg, he's got a good climb on him as well. Watch out for Axel. Perhaps someone also for Outboard that can challenge. Good to see him out here today. Outboard doesn't necessarily have too many riders that can really put the pressure on the climb, but he is going to be one of them, and I think they're reserving his matches as he sits in at about 3.3 watts per kilogram.
Yeah, a lot of riders right now trying to take advantage, but notice how Zed Sun has got 4 sitting right up in the spearhead of this group. Yeah, I mean, you have to give them an A on the way that they've ridden to this point. They're in great shot to defend, or in good shape to defend. But these
Who are we
other
looking
squads
at
are going to
here?
get a
This
shot at it.
Mario Slim. I'm not familiar with this rider. This is a new name to me, actually.
I believe that's the Estonian flag. Let me take a look.
Oh,
There's another flag that you don't see as much, and it is Estonia. Yes, that makes me feel great.
nice. Nice job. Nice job.
Well, when's the last time we saw the Estonian flag in high-level
for
ZRL
Team
racing?
Velos, he's got a level 48 coming out of Estonia. He's got
cool-looking
133
kid.
races. He does, yeah. I love his Zwift power profile.
Yeah.
Always great to see. Looks like he's a mountain bike racer.
Yeah, nice.
I'm actually
Your kinda
only
guy.
seeing
Nathan, a
that he
dad
raced
indoor?
one other. He's only raced one other race actually in this round of ZRL back on October 1st.
Well,
I'm looking
you're
here,
always
so-
saying that you can join new teams can't join the league, but teams are always looking for riders. So that was a nice pickup by the Team Velos.
Yeah, I wonder
Right?
if that's
I mean-
going to change things up for them today too. It could. You never know.
I don't know. I want him on my team. Looking at his his avatar, a good spirit here.
Who's
Looks
going
like
off the front
Chris.
here? Is that going to be a little bit of a
Oh, boy.
move?
You know the
This
name?
is
A few
Davola
mess-
again. Fabian Davola again. Irrepressible. Taft. Is that Taft covering Davola again? This is like the name of the game today is Taft just covers Davola.
Well, and John Archibald was right up. I saw his name near the front for the first time. Definitely, that was a breakthrough rider. I mean, he doesn't need to break through on Zwift. He's a legend in racing. Without any doubt.
I'm seeing if we can
And
get. I'm seeing if
I-
I'm shouting him out because I'm like, hey, I did a little Instagram like, hey, what's going on with him? You know, I wanna know what's up with Archibald. I really do to see if we can get some in real life. You know, what's
have to
this
meet him.
guy about? Get an interview with Archibald because everybody's saying this guy is a serious in real life time trialist. I think it was. Is that right?
Oh, he backs it up. That without a doubt, and his range of distances are super impressive. Obviously, United Kingdom, Britain, massively into the discipline of time trialing. But yeah, he's got some real. His family super interesting. So we'll definitely be paying attention. I haven't even looked at the YouTube comments today, Nathan. But there's the John Archibald, the Scottish flag, moving up to the front of the peloton.
Getting into the back end of the race, it's been Deepak continually trying to make moves, been covered over and over again by the current leader, Zedson. Zedson, it looks to me, are putting all their chips into the final climb because the points are telling me they didn't challenge too much or maybe couldn't challenge because of what BZR and Deepak did with that move off the front. Sisu challenged well. It looks like Zedson Underpants currently in 5th place at that 26 points. That is a massive gap, Dave. 26, 50,
Yeah.
they've doubled their points.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch what happens on our leaderboard out here. No question, today could see huge changes, and it looks like Sisu's starting to really activate that squad now, Nathan.
All right, let's keep this points as they currently stand in mind a little bit still, right? But then I also want to take a look at this real quickly before we hit the climb again, where things stand. Deepak Elite have been trying to make these moves, but they're at 56 points. The interesting thing is No Pins RTR have not been the ones making moves. They've been reserving maybe everything for this final climb. Mutant are right there as well.
Boy, that's going to be interesting, Nathan, because I don't know that the smart tactic would be not really contesting. There's enough points out there. Look at the advantage that Deepak has now with, it's not insignificant, that's for sure. So I think that's really a big part of the storyline is what happens with no pins out here. I mean, do they really step on the gas? Because here we go. This is the prelude to the nightmare as you drop down into the subway. I've always wondered, do you ever see a rider attack out of the subway and go from subway to the KOM banner? That's where the finish line is. Not that much racing distance-wise, but they've got a lot of climbing ahead of them. This is really outside of one little stair step that you get on the Keith Hill after party climb. This is pretty much the last time you see flat road here for quite a few minutes.
Taff, again, doing what he's been doing over and over again, trying to bring back any kind of moves. He's setting the temp. Now he's backed off, though, as it looks like Burton's now back to 4.8. So I think Taff is saying, well, if you're not going to continue on, I'm just going to set the tempo to keep you within striking distance. It's only 2 seconds now at this point. Is Jelly's going to be kicking himself a little bit here, perhaps? I don't know. That was a lot of effort before you're about to hit your attempt at a personal best here.
Yeah, I mean, you want to go into this setting yourself up for success, and that is someone who goes in saying it's going to be a scrappy experience. No doubt about it. This is Yele Martins that we're looking at now. Martins here on the front. Nathan, this is going to be a wild ascent up Keith Hill.
Yeah, and here we go. We're going to take that left-hand turn. Now, the hill does not start proper for FTS just yet. He's getting a little bit of an extension here. Now, he's making his move early. He's committed. 400 watts. This is no joke here still. Back to 4.4, though. Has to back off. I think this was just looking for a fade here at this point. I mean, the reality is these climbers are coming now at this point. They're going to be looking for that FTS banner. There may be some riders that are sitting back a little bit looking for that little bit of extra to take not only the FAL, but also the FTS. Taff at the front, but watch for the riders that are at the back looking to accelerate as they come through the little marker that'll be on the left-hand side of the road.
Yeah, we discussed, Nathan, how this is a technique that you see less and less of, and I think maybe even less now because look at the back of the group, how ragged it is. This is a race that's going to be won from the front. Ted de la Corsa, all the big names seem to be up here. The entire Zed Sunderpants team is up here. I don't know, Nathan, that people are really, FTS points, I believe they go 5 deep now. It's been devalued currency compared to FAL, and I think that's what Zed Sunderpants is showing us is they're all in for the FAL out here today.
I'm looking to see if there's any acceleration from the back. I'm wondering if we're going to see anyone coming through. No, interesting. Wow.
I honestly think, Nathan, that's racing of yesterday or yesteryear. In this day and age, it seems like just trying to stay up near the front and racing with the accelerator down on the floorboard. It looks like it's not quite yet, but it's fast. I
think Pritchard might have. I think the only rider is Kerry Pritchard. He may have moved his way up. I think he was toward the back. And so, I mean, I don't think it was like extended back, but I think a few riders were still thinking a little bit about those few seconds. But now, Deepak are taking over at the front.
Kerry, a previous guest on the show. Really fun to meet him. I would call him a pursuit time trial specialist.
Can he throw down on the climb is going to be a big question.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
right?
How do you nicely say he's not a flyweight climber?
Now Deepak continuing to do what they've been doing all day so far. Fabian Davola with one of the best 5 minutes out here today. Wood, though, also for that Zed Sun. He's one of their only climbers that's really good. Where is Wood?
Well, Fabian is sitting on exactly that number that you showed us earlier with that awesome graphic. I mean, well, he's been right around 6.7 watts per kilo. That's his 5 minute power. So he is dialed in right now. But this is going to be Janagan, I believe. Is this Carl now on the? Yes, it is. So the Swede lifting the pace a little bit as they hit this slight little sector here where it's downhill for a little bit. Nathan, talk about the Zwift craft here.
Yeah, it's all about the draft here at this point. To reserve as much as you possibly can, get as much speed as you can, get that roll through into the climb. Don't find yourself going backwards when the pitch kicks up a little bit. You want to roll through as much freedom as you can with your speed and get as much ground as you can onto the 6% without having to work for it, because that will matter later on. Every match matters for sure. Now we're getting into the climb proper here. Watch the jerseys. That's what it's going to be about. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, no
Look at
pins.
Zedson.
4, 5, Zedson, all here. Where's Deepak? 1, 2, 3, 4, Deepak here, but Zedson taking over on the main front of the pack here now.
Top 3 teams making up the lion's share, the front of this rapidly dwindling peloton, Nathan. So your danger men are here. The gauntlet has been thrown down. I think this would be an it's on like Donkey Kong moment coming up now.
Well, Lieben here from Deepak continuing. What is he going to do? That's going to be my big question as Pritchard tries to respond. 8 watts per kilogram on the 11%. He's got a gap here at this point.
He's getting a response too.
1 beats per minute here coming in from Sebastian.
All right. Well, these guys, I mean, it's amazing. There's this many men with their head above water right now, but the throwdown is underway as Sebastian's going to get the reality that Ruben Dant is an absolute monster. Is Dant now on the front in that beautiful blue Belgian jersey? So BZR, Deepak. You can see that the red, white, and black, that's going to be Zed Sunderpants, our top team. It is linear when you look at the points for the teams after we take all of the riders on each team, put their points together. Deepak has a 4-point lead coming into this one, and we really looked at Deepak as the team. Boy, this is interesting. Things sorting out right in front of our eyes here, Nathan.
2 Zedson going with the Deepak ride. What is this?
Deepak looking good.
Who's making the move now? That's going to be Fawcett now with that feather power up. The timing on the feather power up with 11% gradient. Going to look to get a little bit of a gap. He'll see a response there from Zarhagen. Then it's going to be Rostius. And Ruben Dant still in the mix, but it looks like Fawcett able to get a little bit of a gap with that feather power up. Is it going to back off now to 5.4, 4.8? He's got a gap, but this feather is not lasting as long as he wanted, it seems.
Well, how about Kerry Pritchard, Nathan? More than holding his own up here. Very impressive job by the Welshman. Ed Morgan there as well. Outboard. So Carl having an exceptional performance today. Exceptional avatar today as well from Carl.
I do like this. Nice looking, cool and
That's
calm. You can't really see the pain. That's the reality here, though, with him as he is so cool and calm. Here now, covering quickly, it's going to be Fawcett. Look at Deepak. Look at Zedson matching each other. That's the real battle. Saris are no longer a part of this conversation, actually, as you can see. This is a conversation between Deepak Elite and Zedson. Zedson now with 3 up ahead. You do have Deepak here able to respond, but they've only got 3. There's 4 from Zedson. That may be the deciding factor out here today.
Very astute, and I would think it is. Carl using, there's an old American advertisement talking about never let him see a sweat, and that's exactly what Carl's doing on the front right now. But I have a feeling, Nathan, the big winner is going to be the team in red and white. That's Zedson. They cracked the code right now. Deepak really doing a great job, but I don't know that it's going to be enough with the way things stand right now. It's always going to matter what happens a little bit further down the results table. This is the split that we're looking at, really 2 riders in no man's land. Now, between these 2 groups, it looks like it might be only one using that feather power-up. All hands on deck. All hands on deck, Nathan, as this is going to be interesting. Zedson's got to feel pretty good.
Pettinger's making the response. He's the 4th man that has to get contact here. He has to get back
this is the race
right now to Zedson as the 4th man and then beat the Zedson riders to the line. There's plenty of bodies to put in between them. Can he do it? Pettinger continuing on. Massive ride, 5.7, but at the front now, we do see a little bit of a turning the screws to try and keep this away.
Nathan, this is the bike race right in front of our eyes here.
Morgan attacked.
That's
Morgan
his teammate
attacked.
attacking.
Oh, no. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? I don't know at this point.
I think we'll know in about a minute if he can get a gap, as it's Ruben Dant trying to cover, but that's okay. You know, Ruben Dant was going to get a result, no doubt about it. We're still now looking back to Zedson. I have a feeling that this is just fine for Deepak. I mean, oh boy, what an interesting situation.
Yeah,
Will
putting the bodies
Pettinger-
between is important here, but if he ends up beating Dant, that's a huge one here. But Ruben Dant is so strong. He's
Well,
one of
even
the
if he and
top
Dant
elite
stay
esport.
away, even if he can stay with Dant, but that's going to be a big ask because Dant is like a rocket ship right now. Ruben Dant going ballistic here as he throws his feather power up. This might backfire here on the Welshman, Ed Morgan, but I love the courage that we're seeing out here, Nathan.
He's
What a
gone.
battle this
Dot perfectly timed. Feather power up with the speed over
Won't
the
see him
top.
again.
You see exactly why he's one of the top esport racers in the world currently. Ruben Dant takes this down easily, walking away from the rest of this pack.
Yeah, just slamming. The finale today will be the Belgian. Dant Morgan, though, hanging on. Carrie Pritchard coming up. This is big, Nathan. Zed Sunderpants now looking like they have weathered the storm, or have they? I do think, Nathan, it's going to be just enough. They will remain our top team, that's for sure. Do they give up a spot or two? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting whether or not they end up winning outright on the day when it comes to the points here. Ruben Dant crossing the line. Let's go back to Ed Morgan. Massive ride here from the D-Pack rider, keeping them
on
in contention. Very well done.
Yeah, ultimately a second. It's got to feel like a win in a lot of ways. There goes Carl. Now, Carl's had a tremendous ride for the outboard team.
Well,
So
we're
we
going to
really
start
start
getting
looking-
some names across the line. Lots of Zedson here. Look at Pettinger comes back. Pettinger, nicely done. It's not going to be enough, I think. Well, he beats Glass to the line. He takes Glass down. Jones is here too. Dave, this might be something here. If Jones can beat out the Sisu rider, he's not going to do that. Maybe get just enough. I mean, this is close.
Really
This
matter.
is really close here.
Perfect example of what ZRL is all about. Is these points are going to be the difference makers, not necessarily these guys right here, but certainly spots, I would even say down to the top 20 are going to be critical in having the points that you need, adding them all up for your team. Boy, what a day it has been out here.
Here's Taff. Is there another D-Pack rider back here? If there's not, I think D-Pack may have pulled this off out here today. Massive ride from them. I'm hoping we can get a quick update on the points so we can at least get a good idea. Nice little sprint here from Wise from Velos now. Going to take it down here, I think, for a top 30 still as he looks to chase down maybe a Sisu rider. He might catch him. He's coming on like a freight train.
Every point matters, and this shows you that. Case in point. That Sisu rider might have one last surge when he feels the hot breath.
I think it's too
That's
much
not, yeah,
speed.
goodbye point.
The Wise Watts out on course here as he kicks him right to the line. Klein here from Mutant, followed up by Watt. It's going to be Lanky here from now Taff across the line. I don't know if that's going to be enough to win on the day. There was plenty of Zedson up there. Look at Art. Good to see ART. Absolutely love them. They were featured here in the last couple of months. It was always great to hear from the ART team as we got the rest of our riders making their way across the line. Every one of these points matter, though, Dave. Every one of them. So got to wait for the line here a little bit if we're going to get some updates on the points.
Yeah, D-Pack, BZR, all coming for the king, but Zed Sunderpants, who've put together a tremendous season. Well, they felt the challenge out here today. You can always go to WTRL.racing for updated information. If you'd like to get involved, we've got another season about to kick off here as we have our final race of this batch. So, Nathan, I wouldn't take it as gospel, but I think that that's a surprise and inspiring for D-Pack. 424 points with, maybe Zed Sunderpants paying a bit of a price for not really being as contending for those early points out here, but still, that's a big one for D-Pack here.
Taff
Not
might
even
still
close.
be, Taff might
I
still
feel
bring
like
him in,
that
but I don't think it's going
I
to make
would
a
wanna
difference at
hold.
all. I think that's real. I think that.
Well,
I mean, they had
all right.
It was 52-26 coming in, and it looks like they scored a good amount of FTS, a good amount of
They get
FAL
the
here.
second place with Fabian, or excuse me, the win with Fabian. Davola.
Yeah, I mean, massive points
That's
at
a
the
lot of
finish
points.
line,
And
right?
where was the best placed Zed Sunderpants rider outside of the top 4? I believe. So we'll take a look at individual results, but this just shows you exactly what the league is about. It's not just having a big win, it's about backing that up with a team that's got depth. And DPAC looks like they had that depth today.
We'll have to reload that. Apologies on that, but here you go. And looking
It was
through,
fourth first.
Yeah, Kerry Pritchard was the first one, and Ed Morgan and Fabian Davola both ahead.
That's the difference. So I think you can trust those numbers. Great job today in the Zwift Racing League. Ruben Dant, BZR, big win for that monster. Ed Morgan in for second today. Fabian Davola in third. Correcting myself, it was Ruben Dant for the win. I realized I said Fabian. Fabian was up there, though, taking the bronze medal today. Kerry Pritchard in for fourth. Carl Jarnagen in fifth. It's John Archibald with the result on a big climb today in sixth. Those are the team points that we're looking at now. I think that those look like they
stand.
Track.
Yeah, it looks like they stand. So nicely done to everybody out there today. As it was really Keith Hill after party. It was a little calm up front in both in the women's race, and then they kicked off real good for that first time through on the reverse mile sprint, and then back into the Keith Hill. We saw the world champion taking down an obvious win, big ride from Goxie Paul. Aeonian doing what Aeonian does. And the series leaders for the women holding on to their spot. But in the men's race, though, Dave, a little bit of a different situation where I think in the back end of the season, DPAC have gotten really motivated. They had a course that suited them. They showed up. They dominated. And now we've got a scratch race coming on a course that was made by the community. Maybe not a lot of experience out of it so far, but I have a feeling that there's going to be a little bit of a dice roll out here for this men's racing.
Completely agree. And the great thing for DPAC is the strength of the other teams that are there to challenge. If they're going to beat Zed Sunderpants for the season title, they're going to need other teams to beat Zed Sunderpants too. And those teams exist. So, but all that being said, smart money's probably on Zed Sunderpants, Nathan, with the advantage that they have and the consistency that they've shown. But that's what's been so great about the ZRL is every given week, you really don't know what's going to happen out here. And some teams getting better as the season goes on.
Yeah. And when you get into these crucial final rounds, these final races, and you get into this situation where there's a possibility, that's always that fairy tale story a little bit, right? There's always that in sport, can they do it? Will it happen? And you start looking at all the different ways it could happen. And there's a couple of teams still that can, especially with that ride there from DPAC today. No Pins, I thought maybe really we're going to be able to show up and challenge being the second place team, but we're going to get a jump today a little bit from DPAC. We'll see what can happen, but there's going to be a need to be a lot of teams. And Zed Sun not only have to get beat, they'd have to have just a really bad day, I think, as well.
Want to give a shout out to Kelsey as well, Nathan. Along the way, we've met some really cool South Africans that have gone on to do some big things. I'm thinking of you, Maddie LaRue. And Kelsey's right on track. I love how this platform can help find talent, give people opportunities they might not have had. So, Kelsey, good luck out there.
Yeah, we're looking forward to next week for sure for Kelsey, as well as the Cryo RDT team and the rest of all the teams, the men's and the women's we've been following. Next week, December 17th, race number 6, scratch race on Ter Dringfa Fetchen. How would you say that, Dave? How are we supposed to be saying that one?
Tar Dringfa Fahan.
Yeah,
would be my.
Thank you so much. And where do you think that?
That's
what is
not,
that?
Who knows, Nathan? That might have been just brutally bad. So,
but where you did a great job with that, Dave. That was really good, honestly.
So, and to be honest, I lived in
Welsh,
Ireland,
or is it
so
Irish?
That's Welsh.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
Welsh. But they're in the, so I lived in Ireland, which would be Celtic and that whole thing, right? So I have a lot of a sign reading experience because they try to keep the Irish language alive. And it's like Welsh, where, I think in Wales, there's probably 500,000 people that speak that language daily. at this point, right? So you hate to see languages disappear. Oh, Welsh won't disappear. That's for sure.
No, you did a great job with that one. I'll let you take it next week as well, as,
All right.
or you have to teach it to me in pre-production. Hey, everybody, this has been our community feature, our weekly community feature. We're here with you just about every week. We'll be here next week for ZRL for sure for race number 6, as you just saw. If you want to get involved, you can still join a team. Head on over to WTRL.racing, and you're going to be able to find all the events that WTRL put on. Zwift Racing League being one of them. You can still join a team if you want to jump into someone that's recruiting. They tend to do it on Facebook. There is a Facebook group for the Zwift Racing League, that is a great place to find some recruitment and look forward to round number 3 to register your team. As always, thank you so much to chat. Everybody's been hanging out with us, or those that are watching it back. We really appreciate your hanging out with us for these races, and we will see you next week for race number 6 from Dave and I. As always, right on.